So this episode will be a little bit special. We will deep dive into something that is called a pricing table, and it's basically a spreadsheet to evaluate inflation rates that you will get. And we have Andreea with us, the expert and the founder of the spreadsheet, and she was in the episode too. So go back and listen if you haven't. And yeah, she will show you exactly how to use it. And after this episode, we will also share it over LinkedIn. So make sure to follow us. And yeah, let's get started. Yeah, but yeah, so episode 2, you mentioned pricing table and why it's important. But can you just give me a recap and brief? Like, why do you have a pricing table? What's the benefit of it? And then we can dive into how it works, and hopefully in the end of the episode, we can share how they can access it. But yeah, I'd love to hear like a brief.
Yeah. Okay, so the whole premise of keeping like some pricing baselines is because, as we know, and as everyone who's tried to do influencer marketing by now probably knows, or if you don't, you will know, it's that the industry is highly unregulated. So, compared to advertising, where you can get a CPM specialist to give you like some benchmarks compared to, like, I don't know, email marketing or stuff like that, influencer marketing has literally no benchmarks. So you can have the exact same creator that looks exactly the same, does the exact same content, the exact same stats, quote you wildly different prices, right? You can get, this one's asking for $600, the other one's asking for $4,000, and you're like, why? Why is this happening, right? So we do pricing tables in order to kind of take back control and give a brand like full control on how they spend their budget. That's pretty much it. Also, what I like to use in the most frequent case study that I have for this pricing table, and pretty much the reason I've created it, is because I had a large team when I was working at a brand called Dossier, and I had a large team there. It was 8, and then we added 2 more people, so it became like a 10 people team of influencer marketers, and I had to delegate. I couldn't coordinate like 10 people and just have them ask me all the time, what do I pay this one? What do I pay this one? What do you think about this one? Because you go crazy, right? So I just put a pricing table, and I gave them the freedom to make decisions. And this is also how you train for people who are interested in expanding their team. This is how you train like very capable and good influencer marketers that are able to make decisions on their own, right? So I give them the table and I say, we created this table. It is according to our budget. It is according to what we can pay. It is according to how we value different types of content on different platforms. Any offer you make within these ranges in the table are okay. You're not going to get in trouble, right? You can safely make offers based on this. And that's how I get, I have like 3, 4, 5, 10 people going out there and making offers and keeping the process like really efficient, the negotiation process. So we sign like a lot of people very efficiently. That's where obviously it does a lot of things beyond that. But what I like is I like structure. So this is like structure as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%. But I love that. And in episode 2, we touched on how you kind of run a sales team in a way. Like your influencer marketing is more of a sales team than a marketing team. So I think this sheet is just, giving them the tools just to go out there and hunt and close more deals, because it's that's kind of the whole the game,
Yeah.
But do you want to share your screen, and then maybe we dive into the actual spreadsheet? And yeah, I love to understand it also.
Okay, let's see. Let me share real quick. Okay, can you see it?
Perfect.
Okay. So in this, I think I deleted the ranges because those were like really, I put an example calculator and then the template itself. So I'm going to switch to the example calculator just so people don't see the template and have no idea what's going on in there. So there are 2 ways you can go about creating a pricing calculator for your team. The first one is just creating like the ranges in which you are like willing to the different pricing ranges. I'm sorry, different pricing ranges that you are willing to pay for different types of content, right? So the way this is done is, and I have a guide here on the second page, is that you, first of all, you want to establish what is your budget, like how much do you want to pay? Then what platforms do you want to work with creators on mainly? This is very important because as you can see in the example, there's a split per platform and there's also a split per content type, right? So for example, on YouTube, you don't pay the same for a dedicated video that's like featuring only your brand versus a video integration or an ad spot or an ad read in that, right? So those are two different pricings.
What's dedicated video? What's the clear like difference between video integration and dedicated video? Just so I get that.
So yeah, it can be different things for different people. So what I say, it's about the amount of time that your brand shows up on screen. That's pretty much the difference. So with a video integration, the easiest example I can give for a video integration is like the traditional sponsorship, right? The sponsor of this video today is this software or this brand that does this, and they do like a little bit of an ad read. It can be 30 to 60 seconds, maybe even more than that, depending on the creator. But then they go back to like their regular video, right? It can also be an integration, for example, in a list. For example, if someone's making, my skincare favorites for the month of March, right? And they do a list of things and you're included somewhere on the top of that list. That's also an integration, right? So you would usually be integrated alongside with other brands, usually non-competitor brands, but maybe brands that, I don't know, if we're talking about software, maybe software that goes hand in hand. You know, I promote Canva and then I promote something, I don't know, Airtable. That's something that goes hand in hand with it. A dedicated video means that you are on screen for at least like 2-3 minutes. So you either have a creator create a video that features your product as a main focus. So I get like a body deodorant or a skincare, and I maybe test it over the span of a week and see how it works, right? That's a dedicated video because the focus is on your brand. Or someone creates a full tutorial on how to use a specific software, right? The video editing software, and they just use it from the beginning of the video to the end of the video, and they use that same thing, and they put you like in the spotlight at all times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Yeah, then I basically you're just getting more attention, more views, more engagement in the dedicated video, and then shorts is also there. I can see, and that's even shorter. So, but it makes sense. It makes sense, and Instagram I feel is a lot more clear because we know what story unboxing is.
Yeah.
Feed post plus. So this is different packages I can see now. Okay, great.
Yeah. So this is highly customizable based on the type of content that you want to go for. You might just want to go for video integrations. You might just want to go for, I just want to buy ad spots on YouTube. Great. Then you just do that and you don't worry about anything else. Or you're saying, I'm looking for sales first on Instagram and I want to be able to measure, I want to be able to have performance metrics attached to my campaigns. So I'm just doing stories because that's where I can attach a link, right? I'm measuring click-through rate, so I'm only doing stories, and you're only doing stories. The packages can vary. So these tables I kind of pulled because you can see some of them are pounds. I think some of them are euros. I actually pulled them from like different projects I had and just put them in here as an example of how it can look like, right? So that's why they look different. We also have podcasts. We also have Twitter, X, but it used to be Twitter. So that's how it works. So the way you do it is, you kind of have to think about, first you need to do some research. After you define your budget and you say, okay, I can spend $5,000 a month on influencers. So let's kind of see, what kind of content do I have in my industry? For example, let's say I have, like a beauty brand. Let's see what kind of content is most popular in my niche. Let's see what kind of size I'm size and reach I'm looking for that content, maybe I can start off like really low and say, I put a baseline of like 500 views, right? I start with people that have 500 views and I kind of work my way up until something that's manageable. Let's say 5 to 10K up on YouTube, right? This is all up to like what kind of research you do. This is up to the brand. This is up to the to what you want to achieve. So none of this is set in stone. And I know a lot of brands, what they do is they want something guaranteed. They want, no, tell me how much it costs. No one can tell you that, right? You have to, like I said here, you have to like pull up your sleeves and do a little bit of legwork to find that out. So after you kind of analyze, because I'm looking at the guide put in here, right? I do this. The reason I'm looking at the guide is because I do this very very intuitively because I've been doing it over and over again. So I usually just sit down, I do the research really quick, and then I create the ranges, and then I give them to my team, or I start using it, right? So the one thing I'm interested when I'm spending influencer marketing budget is I'm interested in how many people I can reach. That is like, right, the first thing I'm thinking about. How many people am I going to reach? This is like the very first baseline, the very first start, right? I want to reach, on average, I want to try and reach a minimum of 500 people and a maximum of 10,000 people. So that's great because what I've done here is I've established my minimum and maximum range. So all I have to do is just start filling the ranges in between, right? Depending on the content that I want. So now I'm just thinking, okay, what is it that I am able to pay for the specific amount of views? And I just create the ranges based on like, this is based on research. So like I said here, you pull maybe like 20, 50 pieces of content and you analyze them and you see, okay, for example, if I'm looking at unboxings, how many comments on average do unboxings get for 500 views, let's say so. And maybe I get to the conclusion, okay, so for 500 views, they don't get a lot of comments. They get like 10, 20. Great. I put it down, right? Averages. So I'm not going for super specific stuff, but just average. And I go to the next, I have like 5 videos that are in this range of like between 2,000 and 5,000 views. How many comments do they get on average? Maybe they get 20, maybe they get 15, maybe they get less. I take the average and I put it down. And I've kind of built like my view intervals and comment intervals to say. You can also put a percentage. Like I want, for example, videos that have over 1% engagement. And you can just put 1% everywhere, and then maybe you tweak as you get, as the videos get bigger, you tweak it to be a little bit smaller because that's how it works, right? The smaller ones get higher engagement, and then the bigger they get like slightly less engagement. But that's how you...
Sorry, it was just a question regarding those numbers and how you calculate it. Do you think, would you recommend any brands out there to use what you've just shared, or is it per industry? So if I'm like a skincare brand, I should do this from scratch, taking samples because this is for skincare. And then if you have like golfing or something else, you probably get different numbers. Is that what you recommend? Like everyone should do it from scratch themselves just to understand their industry?
Yeah, you have to do it from scratch because they're wildly, for example, if you are in the general like beauty industry, it is going to be a lot easier for you to find content, right? This research is probably going to take very, very little time. It's going to take an hour at tops. But if you're in like a very niched industry, for example, like you said, golf, or I don't know, people who review copper pipes, I'm just giving an example, you are probably not going to be looking at averages. We're probably not going to be looking at someone who's getting like 50,000 views on average. You're probably going to be looking at a much smaller range. So your table is going to be looking significantly different because maybe your view range is going to start from like 200 views and cap at 2,000 because that's the most interest and that's the most reach you can get within that very super, super niche topic. And the engagement is going to be different as well. And one thing that I was about to talk about is that the pricing would also be slightly higher if you're trying to reach like a very targeted audience. So for general interests like beauty or fashion, I might get away with this, right? I might very well get away with this. I might get away with seeding. I might get away with barters. I might get away with a lot of things. But if I'm looking, for example, for I don't know, vegan skincare for stage shows, right? For makeup for stage show, that all of a sudden limits my pool of creators that I can work with and completely changes like how the table is going to look like. So yes, everyone should do their own research. That's why I included a guide in there, because when I posted this, I had a lot of people coming and looking at the example and saying, "Oh no, those rates would never work." And I had to explain they would work, but they don't work for everybody. So you have to do your own work on this.
And when it comes to the price ranges too, do you have to think of like your average order value, like how much basically you like your price?
Mhm.
Maybe you will come to that too.
Yeah, I don't look at order values, and I don't look, because right now I'm just looking at how many people I can reach. So that's for people just getting started, that's a layer that's a little bit complex, and it comes after a lot of testing. So that kind of attribution model and that kind of figuring out what how I adjust the price based on performance comes after I have like performance to base those assumptions on. But what I do is I take this, and maybe I'll put it somewhere here so it stays in the. So I do this little trick where for less than 5,000 views, I price per 100 views. So you don't technically use a CPT, which is cost per thousand, because obviously you're under. You wouldn't be able to get away with like paying $10 for like 1,000 views, but you price per 100 views, and everything that's over 5,000, right? You use the CPM model, and you also factor in like industry, content creation, etc. That would be maybe like adding 10 to 20% on top of that, right? That's just something I use. It might not be math. The math might not be mathing for everyone, but that's not the point. The point, like I said, is just to get some baselines and just to be able to have security when we're negotiating. So what I do is I make sure that these ranges are ranges that I can comfortably pay within my budget. And you can do like a little bit, just like a little bit of very primary math and say, okay, if I want to get, if I have $5,000 and I want to get 10 people to work with me, and I want them to be, I don't know, preferably within this range right here, how much can I spend per person, right? And that's going to help you. That's going to give you an idea of like, okay, if I'm just looking at video integrations, I can spend a maximum of $500 per person. Great. So $500 is the maximum. And then I kind of reverse engineer my way is like, I'll pay between $300 and $500 for an average between, I don't know, like 2 to 5K. Let's say I'm bringing this down, right? So it's all about tinkering with it until you get something that matches your budget, that matches what you can pay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to hear. Like, I'm wondering if branches think even like a next step on top of that, because if they want, let's say, 5,000 views,
Mm-hmm.
should they also think of the CTR, so the click through? So if you get 5,000 views and just assume like let's say just 2% CTR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2% of, so you get, let's say you get just 200 people into your site. And if you know your conversion rate on the site is 2%, then you know you can kind of get 10 customers. And if 10 customers buy your product, average order value $100, you would basically bring in this 500, you will bring in $500 or whatever. Like, and then you take that back to these ranges. Can you think like that?
Yeah.
Or
Yes, you can definitely, you can do that with Instagram. So this is why, this is where the click-through rate, that's why the click-through rate appears in the Instagram table, because that's where I have past data on the click-through rate, right? I can also ask click-through rate for YouTube as well, but most creators don't have that data. They don't track that data. YouTube doesn't track that data. It only tracks like click-through rate through the thumbnail, so you wouldn't get that data. But on Instagram, you can definitely do that, and there are plenty of brands that are doing that, right? So that's why I have a click-through rate, right? I'm looking for a click. So this is actually a very old table. I do want to point out this is a significantly old table. The prices that I have here would be significantly higher, and the click-through rate would be significantly lower. It would be very, very hard to get this click-through rate in this day and age on Instagram. And I know this for a fact because I've seen from data from, I think it was 2021, I've seen a decrease in around like 50% in both views and click-through rate on Instagram. And I think it coincided with the explosion of short content. I think that was like the main driver for that. But if you want to go, if you want to like work a small funnel, like you said, and say, okay, I'm bringing these people, and then I know for a fact that, you know, the influencer shared this click-through rate with me. I know that in past campaigns, they got a good click-through rate of like around 2%. I know that if I get these many views, I get these many people, and then I get them on my website. And like you said, you know, I can attribute those sales to the specific person. That's not actually, obviously, that's not a guarantee, but it is a very good way to see if you actually want to pay. In my experience, if you get people to give you like click-through rates and actual click-through rates, it's worth going in even if you don't get sales, because you get those people to your website and then you get to retarget them through paid. You get to put them on your email list. You get to do like a lot more things with them, right? Than just having them buy. Yeah. So that's, does this make sense so far?
Yeah, 100%. So just to summarize, like you go out there and do your research in your business, in your industry. I guess you divide everyone in different tiers. So the super small ones, small ones, etc. And you collect information. So like either comments, engagement rate, views, click through. So gather all that so you kind of have an idea of your industry and you map it out here. For Instagram, you can actually backtrack so you can understand how much you should pay based on your conversion rate on your site, based on your average order value, or just previous campaigns. And then from there, you can understand if you what you basically want to pay. Sometimes you just care about ROI of maybe 2, and some needs more. Like for some, it's like, if I could just get my money back, it's worth it because you get brand awareness. So that's for Instagram. And similar to YouTube, you kind of find your range, price range that you're willing to pay. And in that, you just need to think of what you're willing to pay. And I guess you can just can you compare with other channels too? So if you want to make like CPM on video creation is this, and we're paying CPM here, over here, maybe we want to kind of stay at the same numbers.
Yeah. So the beauty of this template, and I keep it intentionally simple, so you can build on it depending on what your brand needs. Because from here, you can take it to any direction you want. For example, in any of these tables, you can also add a percentage of payment for usage, right? If you want to secure paid usage in your ads. You can add different packages based on when you start outreach. You're probably going to be able to identify to some degree some packages that are more popular, for example, in your niche. I've seen, for example, in tech, people have a lot of private communities, right? They have a lot of like masterminds and private communities and email lists, and they like to sandwich their video content on YouTube specifically with a push in their private community. So that's a very popular package that I see people pushing all the time. So I can put that in here and say, okay, for this one, I'm willing to pay this much, right? And then you can obviously add as many things as you want. You can add another sheet to help you work through your funnel. You can build a pricing table based on your past integrations and say, well, I've noticed that for videos within this range, I paid this much. I will have to go back and tweak the engagement rate because maybe I got less or more than I was expecting. And this was the ROI, right? So I can build a model that it will kind of like guide me in the future, right? So I'd say, okay, maybe comparing these two tiers, I actually got more ROI from really small people than like the people at the end of the spectrum. So I'm just going to stick with the small people. You can also factor in a commission, right? So if I'm offering these people a sales commission, how much is that going to add on top of the fee? And what kind of commission I can pay before it starts eating into my, my revenue, my profits, right? So you can go crazy with this.
Super. And the calculation on the right side there with the average views 5K UK percentage, so how can we use that?
So this is kind of like an add-on if you want to get super specific with targeting. So the reason I did this, and you can see that this is a UK percentage, this is based on demographic location. So I have worked in the past with brands that, for example, were unable to ship outside of US or UK, meaning that me targeting audiences outside of that region was useless because I couldn't ship them the product. So I established a baseline in our criteria sheet for what kind of influencers we're looking for. I established that, okay, we're looking for people who have 50% at least per minimum, right? 50% of our target audience location in that area, right? Anything that's below 50%, we don't work with. Anyone who has over 50%, we try to calculate a rate according to the audience that we're actually targeting, not their entire audience, right? And this is why you have two different CPTs. You have CPT for the UK audience that they can reach, and you have like a general CPT for the audience that they generally reach. It can be worldwide. Again, this is something that is very kind of like to give you a baseline. It's not the absolute supreme value that you should take, but it's more like a guide. And the way I use it is I go on someone's account, right? And I see they have, I don't know, like 15K average views, right? And I put in here, I have like, as you can see, I have multiple currencies. If you're working with multiple currencies, that's great. If not, you can just forget about this. But what I do is, okay, let's say they're asking for dollars, right? And they're asking for $5,000. And I'm like, ooh, that's not good, right? Because I am trying, for example, for YouTube CPT, again, these are random. These are baselines that you should set for yourself. So what is the maximum amount that I am able to pay for 1,000, right? Over that 5,000 mark. So let's say I'm paying 50 because YouTube is pretty valuable, right? Let's say I'm in a niche industry, I'm paying 50, right? So I need to stay within 50. So I can't pay this amount, right? Because this will take me way over. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to play with the pricing here and see, okay, what if I offer them 3,000? That would bring me closer, but not close enough. What if I offer, I don't know, 960? Okay. Now I'm getting there to the point where I am still a little bit over my target CPT, but I have a more fair pricing for what I'm trying to achieve and for, what the influencer is trying to achieve, right? So the way I use this calculator is you can either go very, very specific and say, okay, 960, I want to stick to the CPT that I put here for my target audience, so I'm not accepting this, right? The general one's fine, but this one is not. So I don't know, I'm going to 800. Still not there. Right? 600. Okay, great. Maybe 620, right? So you play with this. There you go. You play with this. And this is something that you can also kind of check with your table and see, okay, does this match what I have in my table for that range? How does it go? Is this something that I feel comfortable paying in my budget? Just you kind of like look at everything you have on your plate and you're thinking, okay, this is worth it or this is not worth it. So that's how I use it specifically. I don't know. Does it make sense? I keep
Yeah, for
asking
sure. I
because I
think
want
this
to make
is
sure.
it's a lovely calculator to quickly get understand it, because it's easy to, get like confused with all the numbers. So just putting there like, this is the budget, or this is the number I got
Mm-hmm.
from her or him, put it in and clearly see if it fits our kind of targets. And I think this is really, really great for the team, to
Mm-hmm.
just making sure that they don't overpay, because
Yeah.
that's easy to just,
Yeah.
think, oh, she was so nice, or the content
Mm-hmm.
was so lovely, and oh, this is on brand, everything is perfect. But then when you look at the number, it does not make sense. So kind of taking out the emotions and just looking at the numbers can be great. And then from here, obviously, you can, sometimes maybe go 10-20% above,
Yeah.
but just make sure it's not like double what you should pay. And I also
So what
like
I've
that I just love
go
that
ahead.
you put in UK, like the location, if that's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Sometimes for some brands, I know gender is even more important.
Yeah.
So maybe they can switch and, add that to this calculator, like just having gender split instead if they ship globally, just to, yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. We've used it with like a gender split before. I've also used it with a blended percentage. So we had like very strict criteria on you had to have like 70% women from US, age range like this. And if the blended percentage doesn't fall within my criteria, and like for example over 70%, then I don't work with that person. If is over 70 or 60, 70%, then I put it in the calculator and I try to get like the best pricing, right? So you can add as many things as you want to it. And as a rule of thumb, what I say is that try not to have the difference between these two to be over 50%, right? Uh that's because
Why?
I'm trying to see how I can explain. It means that you're overpaying if you're going for a targeted audience. If the difference between these two is more than 50%, you will overpay to reach a very tiny percentage of your target audience. That's kind of what it means. So this might look good right here. This might be like 10 or 20 or whatever. And you'd be like, oh yeah, but this one is not going to look good, right? So that's kind of, and you'll see this if I changed it. Oh, yeah, that didn't work. See? So that's directly
Yeah.
related to that, like the percentage of your audience. It's just like another safety, security kind of measure for a team, right? For someone that's inexperienced and they're looking at this and they're thinking, oh, great, 50. But then you have the CPT, you have it 10. And I was like, well, I would rather pay 10 than 50.
Yeah, for sure.
That,
But I think just also the thumb rule is, if you look at the audience demographics and you
yeah.
focus on one location, making sure that it's 50% above, preferable 60, 70,
Mm-hmm.
and same for gender split, like having a number where we should not go under it makes sense. I would even say, if you work with an influencer, let's say from Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
no matter if you can still ship to Denmark, Finland, and Norway, I would still recommend that you should still have 50% Sweden if it's a Swedish profile, because
Oh, yeah.
in then you want to target the local audience, like the Swedish people, and if they have 10% Denmark, I would just calculate as a bonus. But I would, really same with Germany, like especially with Germany, because they are very, very local. So you don't want
Mhm.
mixed audiences. Uh,
Yeah. There's also the language barrier because when we're talking about US, Canada, like Alaska, whatever, right, all that part, um, and even like South America, we're talking about a really large population of people that speak the same language more or less. But when you're looking at, for example, Germany, and you're looking at the countries next to Germany, you have a language barrier. So if the influencer is localized there, even if they have like multiple, even if they have audiences where you can ship, the message might not come across because of the language barrier.
So sure.
Yeah.
Great. So what else can we look at? So Instagram, I see the different packages, story unboxing, and obviously you can change that, like you said, like if you have a fashion haul or something
Yeah.
else. TikTok is just TikTok, I guess, one video. Any differences? Like I know we have CTR on Instagram, but anything
Mhm.
special with TikTok that you should think about?
No, not really. With TikTok, I try to I negotiate a lot of packages. For example, I find someone who has a good presence both on TikTok and Instagram, and I try to negotiate the same content being cross-posted. Because, for example, my main goal is to post on Instagram, but I know that TikTok is also a thing, right? So instead of paying for two pieces of content, I just pay for one piece of content. I negotiate for that to be created, and then I negotiate for that to be just cross posted. That's because I've noticed in the data that I have from the past year, I've noticed that um, Instagram outperformed TikTok sometimes by 10 times, which was crazy.
In terms of sales or
In terms of impressions. So for this, we didn't track sales. It was purely like a top of the funnel play to bring more brand awareness, to bring the brand into the conversation. So that was the thing. Now, in terms of sales, I'm pretty sure it would be reversed because of TikTok Shop. So, but again, this was not a play for sales. This was a play purely for impressions. I would like to see. I'm pretty sure TikTok would overperform Instagram in terms of sales. That's my take on it. So it really depends on what you're interested in. If you're interested in sales, center your pricing tables around sales and paying for the highest ROI possible. Don't look at anything else.
and if it's so, and then awareness, just getting out there. Is it any formats like that you should focus on? Like based on your experience, is it TikTok or is it IG Reels? If you just want a lot of views and engagement, do you think about
I
that
would
too?
say my top channel will always be YouTube. I know a lot of people don't like YouTube Shorts, but YouTube long form. Always go for long form for any type of goal you have. And then I would say you can also. This is the thing. This is another conversation, but this is the thing I've noticed from people. A lot of people complain that the awareness doesn't hold any value. You know, it's just doesn't. It's just like views, and it doesn't matter. I agree to some of these points, but I disagree with other points because it's all in the target audience, right? So it's all in like me getting very targeted views from my ideal audience. So if I'm attaching performance metrics to my awareness goals, then I will get like great top of the funnel and mid of the funnel activity, right? So I think that's kind of the thing you need to look at in terms of who do you want to target specifically and how I can get. And this is where the second calculator kind of comes into play. How do I make sure that my views are like laser focused on who I want to see the content and no one else?
Another thing I would add, just to
Mm-hmm.
give more, credit to YouTube and also TikTok, is if you would do a YouTube video, it's kind of like an SEO effect too. The YouTube video is always there. Instagram story will just disappear after 24 hours. So that is just like, I want something now. YouTube
Mm-hmm.
could stay there forever and always bring. I mean, I've heard from brands like, yeah, we got a collaboration like 3 years ago, and it still brings in sales.
Yeah.
So when it comes to getting the sales for like a long period of time, YouTube is great. And with
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, what I've also heard from other brands is maybe it's not the best sales channel right now, but it you could do a TikTok collab. Maybe it won't get viral now, but in 4 weeks or maybe in like 2 months, for no reason, like it will just get picked up and go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the effect from it. So it's kind of also staying there and has always the potential to go viral later. But yeah, that's kind of what I've heard. But again, like if you want the quick sales, stories is still what I've heard is working the best, on Instagram.
It is, yeah. And I do want to add about TikTok. So TikTok is they're making their play towards increasing like long form content on their platform. And we've been seeing like them announcing that they're allowing like longer and longer videos on the platform and stuff like that. And what I've noticed is that this thing with going viral, let's just place that content there because we might go viral at some point. That's great. Like it doesn't happen. Virality usually either happens like now or I don't know, maybe I don't know enough cases of like a content sitting there for a year and then getting picked up and becoming viral. But what I've noticed, and it was very, very interesting to see the data on that, we had content that was placed like now, for example, in the last week of a specific month. And the reporting kind of like, we reported at the end of the month, these are the views, and the views were kind of low. I'm like, oh, we didn't really hit the goals. But then I was like, give it 30 days. And in 30 days, it went from 450,000 views in total, like impressions, targeted ones in total, to 1 million. So in 30 days on TikTok with short content, the difference was 500,000 more people seeing that content, which is huge. And what I've seen is that in what I've reported so far, and what I've seen is that the content keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up. So in the span of 6 months, I think, maybe 5 or 6, I hope I'm not saying a bunch of crap, but it went from like when I first reported, and we had around 4 million impressions, and it went up to like 9. So if you craft content that your target audience wants to see, if you craft good content, if you constantly optimize, even for short content, it will grow in time. It will get like a lot of growth in time, because that's what everyone's kind of focusing on. I think TikTok also realized that the short term play is not really where they want to be, because there's no community building in that. And community is what actually drives the sales, what drives the, influence, the impact, and all that.
Great,
So
great.
yeah.
I mean, so I feel like I want to use this pricing table. And I think what we could do from here, like if, the people that are listening, if they can, I guess, just follow us, like on LinkedIn. I will share our name, so you can just copy paste it and go into LinkedIn, and then we will post it when this go live. So everybody can use it and tweak it and maybe even improve it and customize it for their own business. But it was lovely to have you on and helping us understand your pricing table that is looking amazing, and hopefully people can stop overpaying, or at least getting better results from their campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. And the template that I have comes with like a guide on how to get started. So I go like step by step, like how to use it, how to fill it in. And it's also like a getting started in general with influencer marketing checklist. And one thing I want to, like, as an end note, want to say is, because a lot of brands tend to forget that, especially young, not just brands, but like young marketers or marketers that are new to influencer marketing, they forget you are in complete control. So do not let anyone, any creator, any talent manager, any other professional in the field come and say, no, you have to pay this specific rate, or you have to pay this specific amount to get content, or this is how it works. No, it's absolute BS. You are in complete control. So do not let yourself peer pressure into paying more than you need to pay, more than your budget. Right? I've done this. I've done this. Like you said, oh, they're so nice and I love their content, and that's personal bias, and you have to take that out. Because every single content I got peer pressured or goaded, or there are creators out there that will incessantly follow up with you and say, hey, do you have any updates? Do you have any updates? I'll do you this package. I'll do this other package. It's kind of like a bazaar type of thing, where he's like, I'll give you this one, and I'll throw in a link for free, and let's work together. And you're like, nope, don't do it. Do it.
But I like from the episode too, where you talked a little bit about like how to negotiate and just give the offer, like at least share the offer what you can pay instead of just skipping it. Oh, it's too expensive, because then they can be a little bit creative and maybe change a little bit in the package, and you don't even maybe need everything. You just need stories or whatever it could be. And at least you get the deal, so you can test the profile, test the creator, and from there you get the data, you update your pricing table. Maybe you can even pay more for future or less. And then now when I was looking at the pricing table, the more you can pay, the more you can win, the more deals you can win over your competitors or just other brands, because and then you actually compete with other brands too, not only in the same industry, also like any brand that is working with influencers. So the better pricing table you have, the more refined, the better deals you can get, then hopefully get more revenue.
Yeah, yeah, and don't let anyone, because some creators will do this. Someone, they will say, "Oh, but this is what X brand is paying me." Great, that is great for them. If
Yeah.
they have the budget, maybe X brand has like 10 times the budget I have, so they don't worry about negotiating rates that much. Maybe they worked with you before, or they're getting more results from you than I would. Or maybe what I like to say that pisses a lot of people off, the value is in the eye of the beholder. If you come to me as a creator and you say, I want to get paid $5,000 for this type of content, and I'm looking and I have my own criteria for what value in a creative collaboration means, and I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't pay $5,000 for this type of content, or for this amount of views, or for this overall thing, you can get upset as much as you want because it's me, right? I can say no. So, and I know there's a lot of shaming going on LinkedIn. I have nothing against agencies or talent managers. I think they're absolutely great. They're doing a great job. I admire them. But sometimes there's this conversation of like, brands are trying to lowball creators. No, it's a business at the end of the day. And in a business, you need to get good ROI. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But this was great having you on a second episode. Let's go in and follow us on LinkedIn and connect with us, and we will share the sheet. And yeah, great. This was fun.
Hmm?
Nice
Yeah,
having you
yeah.
on.
Any questions you have about it, shoot them over on LinkedIn.
Great, great.